So today we will discuss the condition called placenta previa. So in the placenta previa, we will see the overview of the placenta and definitions of placenta previa, types, etiology, clinical manifestations, diagnostic evaluations, management and prevention of placenta previa. So first we will see the overview of the placenta. So consider this is the uterus. This is the uterus and here the placenta is implanted. So placenta. So it is this placenta is connected to the uterine wall of the maternal. This is the uterine wall of the maternal. So the placenta is connected to the firmly connected to the uterine wall of the maternal, and this is the umbilical cord which arises from the placenta. So this is the umbilical cord. This is the placenta. So this umbilical cord connects the baby. So here the fetus. This is a fetus. Okay. So the uterine wall of the maternal contains the blood vessels. So this is the blood vessels. So whatever the maternal nutrients and maternal oxygen will be transported to the baby to the blood vessels of the maternal. So by the blood vessels, so the maternal oxygen, so this is the maternal side. The region outside the uterus is called as the maternal side and within the uterus is called the fetal side. So from the maternal side, the maternal food and oxygen and other supplements will be reach the blood vessels of the uterus, and from blood vessels it reaches the placenta, and the placenta it gets filtered. So and filtered and transported to the baby and transported to the fetus to the umbilical cord. And transported to the fetus to the umbilical cord. So for the growth and development of the baby. So this is the overall transportation of the nutrients from the maternal to the fetus. So next we will see that normally in most pregnancies the placenta is situated upside of the uterus or side of the uterus. So this is the uppermost side, this is upside of the uterus, that is topmost side of the uterus or side of the uterus in this manner. So in most pregnancies it is situated top side of the uterus or side of the uterus. So this portion up to here, this portion is considered as the upper uterine segment. Upper uterine segment. And this portion is considered as the lower uterine segment. And this portion is considered as the internal OS. Internal orifice. Orifice means it's opening into the vagina. So this is the upper uterine segment and this portion is called as lower uterine segment, and this portion is called as internal orifice which opens into the vagina. So in almost all pregnancies, the placenta is get situated in the topmost side of the uterus or side of the uterus. So this is the overview of the placenta. So I think you have understood the overview of the placenta. So why I explained this overview of the placenta means, so before going to study about the placenta previa, so we should know the placenta knowledge. So we should know the knowledge regarding placenta. So for that reason I explained some of the points of the placenta, that is in the overview. So I think you have understood the overview of the placenta. So next we will move on to the definition. So in the definition, if the placenta gets implanted partially or completely into the lower uterine segment, then it is called as a placenta previa. So we will see the diagram. So I already said in the overview of the placenta is implanted in the top of the uterus or side of the uterus. But in case of this placenta previa, the placenta is situated in the lower uterine segment here. The placenta will implant into the lower uterine segment. So instead of implanting in the upper uterine segment, it implants in the lower uterine segment. So if it implants into the lower uterine segment, then it is called as a placenta previa. So I think you have understood the definition of the placenta previa. So if the placenta gets implanted into the lower uterine segment, either completely or partially, then it is called as a placenta previa. Next we will see the types of the placenta previa. So in the types there are 4 types of placenta previa depending upon the extension of the placenta. So the first type one is low lying placenta, and next marginal, and third one is partial, and fourth one is complete placenta previa. So first we will look at the low lying placenta. So in the low lying of placenta, so we will see the diagram. So if the placenta, so major part of the placenta is present in the upper part of the upper uterine segment. So this is a major part. This major part will be present in the upper uterine segment, but the lower border of the placenta. So this is the lower border. Here the lower border of the placenta will reach as a lower segment, lower uterine segment. So this is a major part of the placenta will major part of the placenta will situate in the upper uterine segment, will present in the upper uterine segment, but only the lower border, this is the lower border of the placenta, will present in the lower uterine segment, but it will not touch the internal orifice. This is the internal orifice. It will not touch the orifice. Just the lower margin of the placenta will encroach into the lower uterine segment. So this is the low lying placenta. Next we will see the marginal placenta. So in the marginal placenta, so if the placenta will touch the margin of the internal orifice. So here this is the placenta, and it will touch the margin of the internal orifice. This is the margin of the internal orifice. The placenta will touch the margin of the internal orifice, but it will not cover the internal orifice. So here this is the marginal placenta. If the placenta covers the margin of the internal orifice but it does not cover it, then it is called as marginal placenta. Next we will see the partial placenta previa. So in the partial placenta previa, the placenta, half of the internal orifice is covered by the placenta. So like this manner. So this is the placenta. So like this. If it covers the half of the internal orifice, then it is called as partial placenta previa. So it covers the internal orifice partially, but it does not cover the complete orifice. There is partial covering of the orifice, then it is called as partial placenta previa. So next we will see the complete placenta previa. So in complete placenta previa, the placenta is fully covers the internal orifice. So the placenta will fully cover the internal orifice like this. If the placenta covers the internal orifice completely, if the placenta covers the internal orifice completely, then it is called as complete placenta previa. So in complete placenta previa, there is cervical dilatation there is full cervical dilatation. So this is the complete placenta previa. So I think you have understood about the low-lying placenta, marginal placenta, partial placenta previa and complete placenta previa. So in low-lying placenta previa, the major part of the placenta is present in the upper uterine segment and the lower border of the placenta will encroach into the lower uterine segment. So next is marginal placenta previa. So in marginal placenta previa, the placenta will touch the margin of the internal orifice, but it does not cover the internal orifice. Then it is called as marginal placenta. Next is partial placenta previa. So in partial placenta previa, so the placenta covers the internal OS halfly. Half of the internal OS is covered by the placenta. That is called as partial placenta previa. Next, complete placenta previa. If the internal orifice is fully covered by the placenta, that is called as complete placenta previa. So among these types, this is considered as type 1, and this is type 2, and this is type 3, and this is type 4, right? This is type 3. So type 1 and type 2. If in type 1 and type 2, if the placenta is present anteriorly, then it is mild. It is considered as mild phase. If in type 2 and if in type 3 and if in type 4. If the placenta is present posteriorly, it is considered as severe. Once again I am repeating, if type 1 and type 2, in type 1 and type 2 placenta, if the placenta is present anteriorly, then it is considered as a mild case. If the placenta in type 2, type 3, type 4 is present in posteriorly, then it is considered as a severe. So I will explain what is anterior and what is posterior placenta. So this is I already said this is a uterus. Consider here the woman is standing. And this is the front portion of the uterus. This is the front portion of the uterus. This is front portion of the woman, and I mean this is anterior position. The front portion is called as anterior and the back side position is called as posterior. So if the placenta is present in the anterior side, here if the placenta is present, then it is called as anterior. Then again, if the placenta is present in the posterior side, then it is called as posterior placenta. So I think you have understood what is anterior placenta and what is posterior placenta. So moving back to the topic, that is the type 2, type 3, type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4. So in type 1 and type 2, if the placenta is present anteriorly, then it is regarded as a mild case. Mild in type 1 and type 2. If the placenta is present in a posterior position in type 2, type 3, type 4, then is considered as severe. So I think you have understood the types and what is meant by anterior placenta and what is meant by posterior placenta and which degree is considered as mild and which degree is considered as severe. Next we will see the etiological factors. So in the etiological factors, if the fertilized ovum drops in the lower uterine segment, that is here. So the implantation of the placenta will also take place in the lower uterine segment. Normally the ovum gets implanted in the endometrium. So before going to tell about it, I will say the layers of the uterus. So the uterus consists of 3 layers. It consists of 3 layers. So that is outer perimetrium, middle myometrium, and innermost layer is called as endometrium. So in normal, the ovum gets implanted at the site of the endometrial site. So, but in some conditions, if the ovum gets implanted in the lower uterine segment, the implantation of the placenta will also takes place in the lower uterine segment. So this is the cause of the, this is one of the cause of placenta previa. So if the fertilized ovum implants at the lower uterine segment, then it is one of the cause of the placenta previa. The next one is a big surface of the placenta. So the length of the placenta is 22 centimeter. So the length of the centimeter is 22 centimeter. If it is more than the 22 centimeter, so here the uterine the surface of the uterus will not sufficient for the placenta to fit inside the uterus. Therefore the placenta will lag down, means it will come down, it will pull down to the lower segment. So this is the another cause of the placenta previa. So if the length of the placenta will more, then the placenta will not fit in the uterus. That leads to lag down into the lower uterine cavity. So this is the another cause of the placenta previa. Next one we will see if the endometrium lining has any abnormalities such as the formation of fibroids or any injuries are present in the endometrial site. So the implantation of the placenta will take place other than the endometrial site. So this is the another cause of the placenta previa. So next one is abnormal formation of the placenta. So abnormal formation means whether abnormal formation in shape and structure of the placenta also, it will be the one of the cause of the placenta previa. So I hope you understood the etiological factors of placenta previa. So first I will say once again etiological factors. So if the fertilized ovum implanted in the lower uterine segment, then the implantation of the placenta will also take place in the lower uterine segment. So next one is if the lining of the endometrium has any abnormalities, so the implantation of the placenta will take place other than the endometrial side. Next is a big surface of the placenta. So if there is any if the length of the placenta is normal than the usual, so the length of the placenta is 22 centimeter. If it is more than 22 centimeter, so it leads to the placenta previa, because it will the space of the uterus is not sufficient for the placenta to fit inside the uterus. So this is another cause of the placenta previa. So next is abnormal formation of the placenta in its shape and structure also. It will be the another cause. It will be the cause of the placenta previa. So I hope understood the etiological factors. Next we will see the risk factors of the placenta. We will see the risk factors. In the risk factors, if the maternal had multiple gestation, so it will increase the risk of the placenta previa. Next, if the maternal has several previous pregnancies also, this it will increase the risk of the placenta previa. So next one is if the maternal age is over 35 years, also it will increase the risk of the placenta. So the next one is if the maternal had conceived with, if the pregnancy has conceived with the assisted reproductive technology, that is in vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization. If the pregnancy gets conceived with this in vitro fertilization also, it will increase the risk of the placenta previa. So next one is if the maternal has smoking. The maternal has smoking also, it will increase. How it will increase means due to smoking there will be hypertrophy of the placenta. Means hypertrophy means it will abnormal increase in size of the placenta. So I already told you 22 centimeter is the average length of the placenta and weight is about 450 grams. So due to this hypertrophy of the placenta, so it will increase the size and weight of the placenta. So due to that placenta will not stay in the upper uterine segment. So it will lag down. So that is one of the risk factor of the placenta previa. So I think you have understood the risk factors of the placenta previa. So next you will see the clinical manifestations of placenta previa. So in the placenta previa, the first indicating symptom of this placenta previa is fresh vaginal bleeding will be seen. This is the first symptom of the placenta previa. That is fresh vaginal bleeding. and this fresh vaginal bleeding is more painless. So next one is when you see the abdomen, that is when you are doing the examination of the abdominal. So when we are examining the abdomen, so the uterus is elastic in nature. Uterus is elastic and soft. So when you see the uterus on abdominal examination, the uterus is elastic and soft in nature. So the size of the uterus is also quite suitable for the gestational age, gestational week. So uterine size also suitable for gestational weeks. Next is so note one thing, in this case of placenta previa, vaginal examination should be contraindicated. So we should not do the vaginal examination during the placenta previa. So I think you have understood the clinical manifestations of placenta previa. So these are some of the clinical manifestations. Next we will see the diagnostic evaluations of placenta previa. The first diagnostic evaluation is speculum examination. Speculum examination. So usually speculum is an instrument which is inserted into the vagina to examine the walls of the vagina and see the condition of the cervix. So this is the use of the speculum examination. It is mainly used to visualize the walls of the vagina and see the condition of the cervix. Next one is a transabdominal sonography. Transabdominal sonography. So in transabdominal sonography, a probe or transducer is gently pressed against your abdomen, and with the help of this probe, the sound waves will be traveling from the probe to the computer screen, and it will visualize the organs inside the abdomen. So this probe helps us to visualize. By putting this probe on your abdomen, it will catch the pictures. It will see the pictures inside your abdomen, and these sound waves will be travel and create the echoes and travels into the computer screen, and in computer screen it will create a picture called as a sonogram. So mainly the main use of the transabdominal sonography means it will helps to visualize the organs or parts inside the abdomen. So this is the transabdominal sonography. So in transabdominal sonography, a probe or transducer is placed against your skin of the abdomen, and this probe will visualize the organs in the abdomen, and these organs are created in the form of echoes, and these echoes will be transported into your computer screen and create a picture called as sonogram. So I think you have understood about the speculum examination and transabdominal sonography. So the next diagnostic evaluation is color Doppler. So in color Doppler, the pictures, whatever the pictures are visualized inside the uterus, it will be seen in a colorful form. Means if there is any abnormal blood flow in the myometrium, so that the blood flow will be seen in the red color. So it is used to visualize the organs with the color presentation. So this is the color Doppler. It is mainly used to detect any abnormal blood flow in the myometrium. So this is the use of the color Doppler. I think you have understood the diagnostic evaluation. In diagnostic evaluations, there are three diagnostic evaluations: speculum examination, transabdominal sonography, and color Doppler. I think it is very clear. And next we will see the management of the placenta previa. So in the management of the placenta previa, so the first one is admit the patient. Admit the patient. So immediately when the placenta previa, when the patient is suspected with this placenta previa, so immediately we have to admit the patient. Why? Because the bleeding may continue or stop on its own. So therefore the patient should be hospitalized or admitted in the hospital. So after admission, so the complete or brief history of the patient should be taken. So first the brief history of the patient should be recorded. The next one is abdominal palpation should be done. Abdominal palpation. So what is palpation? So with the help of our fingers we will touch the abdomen. So why it is done? So determine the lie of the fetus. So to determine the lie of the fetus. So by doing this abdominal palpation, we can able to find the where the fetus is present. So for that sake we are doing the abdominal palpation. So the next one is fetal heart rate should be monitored. Fetal heart rate should be monitored. So remember one thing, in this placenta previa, the vaginal examination should not be done. It should be contraindicated. It should not be done. So this is while we are admitting the patients. So these are the history should be recorded, and abdominal palpation should be done, and heart rate of the fetus should be monitored, and vaginal examination should not be done. So this is first management. And next one is estimation of hemoglobin and blood grouping. Hemoglobin level and blood grouping. So in this placenta previa, so the blood loss is severe. So due to the blood loss, we have to estimate the hemoglobin level. So what is the level of the hemoglobin? So how much we should be transfer the blood to the maternal. So how much blood is needed for the maternal? So which blood group? So blood grouping should be done. So blood transfusion must be done depending upon the hemodynamic status of the maternal. So this is the estimation of hemoglobin and blood grouping. So next we will see the obstetric management. Obstetric management. In the obstetric management, so in third degree and fourth degree, in third degree and fourth degree, so there is no possibility of vaginal delivery. So there is no rule for vaginal delivery. Even the fetus is dead inside also, there is no rule for vaginal delivery. Vaginal delivery is not possible even if the fetus is dead. Vaginal delivery is not possible. Even if the fetus is dead also, there is no rule for vaginal delivery. So next in first and second degree. So in first and second degree, so if there is a breech presentation, what is breech presentation? So the longitudinal lie of the fetus buttocks form. So the longitudinal, say here this is a breech presentation. So longitudinal lie of the fetus with the buttocks presentation. So this is the buttocks. So even if there is any breech presentation, so cesarean section is to be done in first degree and second degree. Okay, I think you have understood the obstetric management. In fourth degree and third degree and fourth degree, vaginal delivery is not possible even if in fetus dead also. In first degree and second degree, if breech presentation is seen, then cesarean section is to be done. There is no rule for vaginal delivery in first and second degree also. Vaginal delivery. Vaginal delivery. So in the management, next one is a vaginal delivery. So in vaginal delivery, so when vaginal delivery is possible means in first degree and second degree, if the placenta is present anteriorly, then vaginal delivery is possible. So again I am repeating, in first degree and second degree, if the placenta is present anteriorly, then the vaginal delivery is possible. So next one, the next way of vaginal delivery is if the presenting part is in the, if the presenting part, say for example head is the presenting part with vertex presentation. So this is the head of the fetus with the vertex presentation. So here the placental edge will be seen. This is the placental edge. So like this also vaginal delivery is possible. If the presenting part, in vertex presentation, the presenting part is behind the edge of the placenta, then vaginal delivery is possible. So I think you have it's very clear for you in the management. I hope it will be, and I think you understood about this management. First in the management we have to admit the patient. So after admission of the patient, so we have to brief history of the patient should be taken, abdominal palpation should be done, and fetal heart rate should be monitored, and there is no vaginal examination should not be done. It should be contraindicated in the placenta previa. So next we have to estimate the hemoglobin level and blood grouping. So next in the obstetric management, so in the fourth and in the third and fourth degree what will happen, and in the second and third degree cesarean section is possible or not, in vaginal delivery is possible or not, we are seeing in the first degree and second degree and third degree, fourth degree. So next in vaginal delivery, so in vaginal delivery, if the placenta is present anteriorly in the first and second degree also, then it is possible for vaginal delivery. And if the presenting part is in vertex presentation, so it is present if it is present in the edge of the placenta, present behind the edge of the placenta, then this vaginal delivery is possible. We will see the prevention of the placenta previa. So how to prevent the placenta previa? The first one is adequate antenatal care. Adequate antenatal care. So what is antenatal care? It is the care given for the pregnant woman before delivery. So why it is to be given to identify any early disease process. So for example, if the woman is suffering from any disease before after pregnancy, so by this antenatal care we can able to find the disease and we can able to cure the disease. So it mainly helps to prevent the disease, any harmful diseases for the pregnant woman. It is help to detect the harmful diseases early in the pregnancy by this antenatal care. So adequate antenatal care should be given. Next one is warning hemorrhage should not be neglected. So the first sign and symptom of placenta previa is hemorrhage. So if there is any hemorrhage from the hemorrhage, if there is any hemorrhage, so it should not be neglected. Immediately we should visit the hospital. Okay, this is a warning sign of hemorrhage should not be avoided or neglected. Next one is pelvic examination and sexual intercourse should be avoided. So during this placenta previa, so sexual intercourse should be avoided, and there should not be done any pelvic examination. So these are the prevention measures for placenta previa. So in placenta previa, so adequate antenatal care should be given. So warning hemorrhage should not be neglected, and pelvic examination should not be done, and then sexual intercourse also must not be done. So these are the preventions of the placenta previa. So I think you have understood the placenta previa detailing. I hope it's clear for you. So